1348. The Black Death is burning through Europe. In 4 years, it kills somewhere between a third and half of everyone on the continent. Picture every living soul in California, Texas, Florida, and New York simply gone before the decade is out. Whole towns go silent. Gravediggers run out of graves, then run out of gravediggers. And terrified people, with no medicine and no idea what is killing them, reach for the one thing they swear will save them. A knobby little bulb they hang over the door, stuff in their pockets, and crush against their skin. Garlic. The same bulb sitting in your refrigerator door right now, next to the ketchup, that you paid $1.99 for and completely forgot about. This is where it begins. Go back far enough, and garlic isn't a food. It's a survivor. The plant we know today, Allium sativum, comes from one of the harshest neighborhoods on Earth, the high mountain country of Central Asia, the Tian Shan and Pamir ranges running through what is now Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Some of those peaks top 24,000 feet. That's more than 4,000 feet taller than Denali, the highest point in all of North America. Up there, the winters are savage, the air is thin, and the summers are short and blistering. Nothing soft survives a place like that. Garlic did. Botanists still argue about its exact wild ancestor. The usual suspect, a wild plant called Allium longicuspis, is mostly sterile, which makes it a shaky candidate for a parent. So treat that part as an educated guess. But the birthplace isn't in doubt. Central Asia holds more wild garlic diversity than anywhere else on the planet. When you want to know where a crop was born, you look for where its family tree is most tangled. For garlic, that's the roof of the world. Now picture the first person who pulled one from the ground. It didn't look like much. A dirty little cluster of cloves wrapped in papery skin. Bite into it raw and it bites back. A burning sulfurous heat that floods your sinuses and coats your tongue and lingers for hours. That heat is not an accident. It's a weapon. When the clove is crushed or chewed, two chemicals locked in separate compartments slam together and produce a compound called allicin. That's the sharp, eye-watering sting. The plant makes it on purpose. In the split second it's damaged, to poison anything trying to eat it. Rub a cut clove between your fingers and the smell will still be there tomorrow, no matter how many times you wash your hands. That stubbornness is the whole point. It's a plant that refuses to be ignored. Early nomads figured out that the same chemical burn that hurt them seemed to help them. It cleared their heads. It settled their guts. Pressed into a wound, it kept the flesh from turning green and rotten. They didn't know the word bacteria. They didn't need to. They knew that people who used the burning bulb tended to live, and people who didn't tended to die, and that was enough to build a tradition on. They were growing this plant roughly 5,000 years ago. Let that land for a second. People were farming garlic almost 3,000 years before there was a Roman Empire, and about 4,700 years before anyone signed the Declaration of Independence. When your ancestors were still a rumor, garlic was already a crop, and then it started to travel. Garlic moved the way everything valuable moved in the ancient world, on the backs of traders, along the routes that would become the Silk Road, a network stretching a distance that would be like driving from New York City to Los Angeles and back, then doing it again. Where it landed, it didn't just get eaten, it got worshipped. In ancient Egypt, garlic was medicine, currency, and something close to a god. The Ebers Papyrus, a medical scroll from around 1550 BC, lists 22 separate remedies built on garlic, for the heart, for worms, for headaches, for swelling. Workers who hauled the stone for the pyramids were fed garlic rations to keep them strong. The Greek historian Herodotus claimed he saw the cost of that garlic carved right into the Great Pyramid itself, though that story is almost certainly a tour guide's tall tale, so hold it loosely. What's not in question is how seriously Egypt took the plant. When archaeologists opened the tomb of King Tutankhamun, they found dried cloves of garlic tucked inside. The Roman writer Pliny later recorded that Egyptians would swear their oaths on garlic and onions, the way people today swear on a Bible. Picture one of those workers for a second. Sun already brutal by mid-morning, dust caked into every crease of his skin, muscles wrecked from dragging stone that weighs more than a pickup truck. He sits down in a sliver of shade and lunches bread, beer, and a fistful of raw garlic. He crushes a clove between his teeth and the heat hits the back of his nose like a slap. To him, that burn isn't a flavor, it's fuel. It's the thing that keeps him upright for another shift. A nation building the most famous monuments on Earth ran, in part, on the same bulb you'd toss in a pasta sauce tonight. The Greeks fed it to their Olympic athletes to make them stronger and faster, which, if you think about it, makes garlic one of the first performance-enhancing drugs in recorded history. Greek soldiers ate it before battle. Then Rome got hold of it, and Rome did what Rome always did. It industrialized. Roman legions carried garlic across the entire empire and planted it wherever they marched, tying it to Mars, their god of war. Roman doctors prescribed it for dozens of ailments. To a Roman soldier, garlic wasn't a seasoning. It was armor you could eat. For 3,000 years across 3 continents, garlic held that reputation. The strong plant, the protector, the thing you reached for when the world turned dangerous. Which is exactly why, when the plagues came, people bet their lives on it. But the plant's biggest test, and its darkest, most modern chapter, was still a long way off. Before we go further, if you're new here, this channel covers the hidden histories behind the things that shape the world. Real stories, real numbers, no filler. New video every week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Whether you're in Texas, New York, or somewhere in between, I always want to know. Here's a question almost no American can answer. Where does your garlic actually come from? Not the plant's ancient homeland. Right now, the garlic in the jar in your fridge, the powder in your spice rack, the stuff on your pizza. The answer is one country, China. China grows roughly 80% of all the garlic on Earth. Not a plurality, a near monopoly. The next biggest producer on the planet grows about 1/15 as much. In a single eastern province called Shandong, in a city that literally calls itself the garlic capital of the world, farmers pump out billions of pounds a year. China harvests something on the order of 20 billion pounds of garlic annually. That's a number so large, it stops meaning anything. So try this instead. China grows more garlic in one province than the entire United States uses in a year. Drive through Shandong at harvest, and the garlic is stacked in white mountains along the roads, spilling out of trucks, drying in fields that run flat to the horizon. Entire towns exist for nothing but this crop, planting it, pulling it, peeling it, boxing it, shipping it to the rest of the planet. It is farming at a scale and a speed that no American operation has ever come close to matching. This is the empire garlic built in the modern age, and it was built on price. Chinese garlic is astonishingly cheap. At times, the wholesale price has sat near $1 a kilo. That's $1 for more than £2. No American farm can touch that. So American buyers did what buyers do. They bought the cheap stuff. By 1998, for the first time in its history, the United States flipped from growing its own garlic to importing more than it produced. Today, the US is the single largest garlic import market in the world. Walk into any grocery store in America, and it's already all around you. That squeeze bottle of minced garlic, the garlic powder, the peeled cloves in the plastic tub, the garlic in the sauce, the dressing, the frozen bread. A huge share of it started in Chinese soil, 8,000 miles from your kitchen. That's the deal America made. Cheap garlic, forever, from a country most Americans couldn't find on a map. But cheap has a cost. It's just not printed on the label. Somebody has to peel all that garlic. Billions of pounds of it. By hand. Peeling garlic is miserable work. The cloves are small and slick. The skin clings. And the oils crack and burn the skin on your fingers. In the sheds where garlic gets processed for export, workers sit for endless shifts stripping clove after clove after clove. The sharp smell soaked into everything. And this is where the story gets genuinely dark, and where I have to be careful with you, because the line between what's proven and what's alleged matters. In 2018, a Netflix documentary series called Rotten Aired, an episode about the global garlic trade. In it, a Chinese garlic wholesaler presented what he said was undercover video from inside Chinese prisons. Footage he claimed showed inmates being forced to peel garlic bound for American shelves. According to that witness, some prisoners peeled with their teeth because the constant work had worn their fingernails down to nothing. Industry insiders have long whispered about garlic being bleached and chemically treated to look whiter and last longer on the shelf. Now here's the part responsible people leave out. Those are allegations, and they were tested. The US Department of Commerce ruled in favor of the importer at the center of the claims. A judge found the video insufficient to block its shipments. US Customs and Border Protection investigated and cleared the company. The American distributor named in the film flatly denied it and threatened to sue. So I'm not going to tell you it's a settled fact, because it isn't. What I can tell you is this. The cheap garlic in the American supply chain comes from a place where nobody with a camera is allowed to check, and that should bother you a little. Quick question, and I want a real answer. How much garlic do you think the average American eats in a single year? Don't overthink it. Lock in a number and drop it in the comments right now. I'll give you the real figure before this is over, because whatever that number is, almost all of it is passing through hands you will never see. Rewind for a second, because there's a piece of this the modern grocery store erased. For most of human history, garlic wasn't a flavor. It was frontline medicine, and it actually worked. Up to a point. Remember that clove Louis Pasteur is famous for dropping into a dish of live bacteria back in 1858. The story goes that a clean, dead ring formed around it where the bacteria refused to grow. That specific tale is repeated far more often than it's carefully documented, so hedge it. But the underlying science held up. When the world went to war, garlic went with it. Picture a field hospital on the Western Front in 1917. No antibiotics exist yet. They won't for another generation. A wounded soldier comes in with a leg wound already going septic, the kind of infection that kills more men in this war than bullets do. The surgeon has almost nothing to fight it with. So he reaches for crushed garlic, packs it into the wound, wraps it, and prays. And more often than the doctors could explain, it worked. Britain bought garlic by the ton for exactly this. In World War II, when penicillin ran short, the Soviet Red Army leaned so hard on garlic to fight infection that soldiers nicknamed it Russian penicillin. In 1944, two chemists finally caught the plant in the act. Chester Cavallito and John Bailey, working at an American company called Winthrop Chemical in Rensselaer, New York, isolated allicin, that sulfur compound the crushed clove produces, and proved in the lab that it killed both major classes of bacteria. Ancient folk wisdom, confirmed on a New York lab bench. For a moment it looked like garlic might have a future in modern medicine, and then modern medicine buried it, not in a conspiracy, in a landslide of progress. Penicillin, discovered in 1928 and mass-produced during the war, was standardized, dependable, and vastly more powerful than any clove. The sulfur drugs arrived right behind it. Almost overnight, a crushed bulb that killed some bacteria some of the time looked like a superstition next to a pill that killed nearly all of them nearly every time. Doctors dropped garlic. Hospitals dropped garlic. The plant that armies had trusted with their soldiers' lives got demoted to a smell in the kitchen. This decision seemed small at the time. It was not. Because when garlic stopped being medicine, it became just another commodity, a cheap crop, chasing the cheapest possible price anywhere on Earth. And a country that once grew its own strength decided it would rather import it. The world told itself infection was a solved problem, that the miracle drugs had won, and that the old remedies could be safely forgotten. It wasn't, and they hadn't. Because bacteria adapt. Decade after decade of pouring antibiotics into people and, even more, into livestock, taught the bugs how to survive them. Today the miracle is faltering. Drug-resistant infections, superbugs like MRSA that shrug off the strongest antibiotics we have, cause an estimated 2.8 million infections and more than 35,000 deaths in the United States every single year, according to the CDC. That's a September 11th of dead Americans, roughly every 5 weeks, from infections our wonder drugs can no longer beat. And here's the twist that should stop you cold. As those drugs fail, scientists have started circling back to the one thing we threw away. Researchers in the US, the UK, and beyond have been testing allicin, that same sulfur burn from a crushed clove, against MRSA and other resistant strains. In lab dishes and early studies, it kills bugs that our last-line antibiotics can't. It's not a proven cure, the compound is unstable and hard to bottle, and nobody should be treating a serious infection with a garlic clove. But the direction is unmistakable. We spent a century laughing at the peasant remedy, and now the peasant remedy is back in the lab because the miracle we replaced it with is running out. What America didn't notice, while all this was happening, was who was quietly taking over the fields, and what its own government would choose not to see. Here's something that will surprise you. The United States actually tried to protect its garlic farmers, on paper, aggressively. Back on November 16, 1994, Washington slapped an anti-dumping tax on fresh Chinese garlic to stop it from drowning American growers. The rate was not gentle. It was 376.67%, nearly quadruple the value of the garlic itself. That order is still on the books today, more than 30 years later. So how did China still end up owning the American garlic aisle? A loophole, a big one, and it lived inside the US. Department of Commerce. The rules let certain importers apply for a special review to lower their duty, potentially all the way down to zero. And through a maneuver involving those reviews, the largest importer of Chinese garlic in America managed to pay an anti-dumping rate of 0 for roughly a decade. 0. While small American farmers paid to grow the real thing in real soil, the giant importer moved cheap Chinese garlic into US stores at a price no honest farm could survive. One man decided to fight it. His name is Stanley Crawford, and he runs a tiny garlic farm called El Bosque in Dixon, New Mexico. 2 acres. A gentleman farmer and author in his 80s. In 2014, Crawford filed a formal request asking the Commerce Department to actually review the giant importer's suspiciously perfect 0 rate. Think about that mismatch. On one side, a 2-acre farm run by an octogenarian who sells his crop at a Saturday farmer's market. On the other, one of the largest garlic importing operations on the planet. For his trouble, the full weight of that multinational and its stable of international lawyers came down on Crawford's little patch of New Mexico dirt. The importer countersued under the RICO Act, the federal racketeering law built for organized crime, accusing Crawford and others of a conspiracy. In 2017, the Commerce Department dismissed his complaint, citing inconsistencies in his filing. I'll be straight with you. This fight is a mess, and not everyone in it has clean hands. Crawford's opponents accused him of being bankrolled by rival Chinese businessmen. He denies it, but strip away the mudslinging and one fact stands untouched. The biggest importer of Chinese garlic in America paid 0. The system that was supposed to protect American farmers had a door built into the back of it, and the cheap garlic walked right through. You might be thinking, so what? It's garlic. Who cares if it's cheap? Here's who pays. In 2016, the Government Accountability Office, the federal watchdog that audits how your tax dollars get handled, reported that around $577 million in duties on imported garlic had gone uncollected. That's money that was legally owed to the United States Treasury and simply never showed up. The same report noted that a single country, China, accounted for about 95% of all the unpaid import duties across a long list of products. That's not the importer's money, that's yours. Duties fund the government you pay into. When they vanish, the hole gets filled by taxpayers, by you. And it costs more than money. It costs the farms themselves. According to America's largest garlic grower, the number of commercial garlic farms in the United States collapsed from around a dozen in the 1990s to just 3. An entire American industry hollowed out almost to nothing, one cheap shipment at a time. The last giant still standing is Christopher Ranch in Gilroy, California, a town that calls itself the garlic capital of the world. The company started in 1956 when a 22-year-old named Don Christopher planted 10 acres because he was sick of growing prunes. Today, it farms thousands of acres and employs more than 1,000 people, and it has spent decades locked in a grinding fight against Chinese imports. When the federal government finally added new tariffs on Chinese garlic a few years back, one of its executives celebrated by jumping into a bin of garlic and throwing the skins in the air like confetti. That's what survival looks like in American garlic now. A guy in a bin, relieved he gets to keep the lights on one more year. The Commerce Department knew about the loophole. The GAO put the missing millions in writing. And for years, the cheap garlic kept coming. The farms kept closing, and almost no American ever heard a word about it. So let's answer the question from earlier. The average American eats roughly 2 pounds of garlic a year. If you guessed anywhere close, well done. 2 pounds, a bulb here, a spoon of the jarred stuff there, adds up across 300 million people to a staggering river of garlic flowing into this country. Most of it from one place, most of it untraceable once it's peeled and processed and poured into a jar. And it is everywhere in your life. Not abstractly, physically, within arm's reach. It's in the door of your refrigerator, in that green-capped jar of minced garlic you bought at Walmart. It's the garlic powder in your cabinet, the giant tub of peeled cloves at Costco, the garlic bread in your freezer. It's in the sauce at your pizza place, in the dressing on your salad, in fast food you'll eat this week without a second thought. It's on the shelf at your grocery store right now for about $2 a bulb. A price that only exists because of everything you just heard. You will almost certainly touch garlic in the next 24 hours, and now you'll know what it took to get there. Here's the last twist, and it circles all the way back to the plague. Garlic never lost its reputation as medicine. We just moved it from the hospital to the health food store. Today, it's one of the top-selling herbal supplements in America. Capsules and tablets promising to protect your heart, sold on the strength of a 5,000-year-old belief that this bulb heals. So, in 2007, researchers at Stanford ran the most rigorous independent test anyone had ever attempted, funded by the National Institutes of Health, not by supplement makers. They put raw garlic and 2 of the most popular garlic supplements head-to-head against a placebo in nearly 200 adults with high cholesterol for 6 months and published it in the Archives of Internal Medicine. The result? Nothing. No meaningful drop in bad cholesterol. Not from the pills, not even from the raw garlic. The lead scientist put it bluntly. It just doesn't work. There's no shortcut. There's no herb you can swallow to undo an unhealthy life. Sit with the whole arc of that for a second. We took the plant our ancestors trusted against the Black Death. The plant Roman legions carried into war. The plant that patched wounds when there was nothing else. And we did 2 things to it. We replaced its real limited medicine with pills that actually work, penicillin and everything after it. And then we sold the plant's ancient promise back to ourselves in a capsule that the best science we have says doesn't deliver. Here's the cruelest part of the swap. The thing garlic actually can do, kill bacteria on contact, the exact power Pasteur saw and the field surgeons used, is the thing quietly being pulled back into laboratories right now as our antibiotics fail. But that's not what's on the label at the store. The label sells you a heart health promise a Stanford trial couldn't confirm, while the plant's real 5,000-year-old talent sits unmarketed in a produce bin, mostly forgotten. Meanwhile, the real bulb, the one that genuinely fights bacteria, the one with 5,000 years of history in it, we quietly stopped growing. We handed it to a rival across the ocean, looked away from how it's made, let the taxes on it disappear, and let our own farms die, all to save $1 on something we don't even think about. How many things in your life right now sit in your kitchen exactly like that? Cheap, everywhere, essential, and built on a decision made in a boardroom or a government office you never got to vote on. Take a second with that one. I'm not going to answer it for you. If a question like that is the reason you're still watching, then you're my kind of person, and you should stick around. Have you ever actually checked where the food in your own fridge comes from? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. If this is the kind of history you want more of, the real story behind the things that quietly run your life, hit subscribe, smash that like button, It's the single clearest way to tell me to keep digging this deep and share this with somebody who thinks they already know how the world works. Because here's the truth, and it's waiting for you in the door of your refrigerator right now. The plant that outlived empires, guarded pharaohs, and marched with armies didn't get defeated by a plague or a war or a stronger crop. It got beaten by something far quieter, a cheaper price, a loophole in Washington, and a country that decided it was easier to forget where its strength came from than to keep growing it. The next time you twist the cap off that little jar, remember, you're holding 5,000 years of medicine, empire, and quiet surrender for $1.99. And you'll never twist that cap the same way again.